Right, back again. I thought we'd do another quick product review update. Antex kindly sent us 2 units for review some months ago. Well, it's quite a few months ago now. I'm currently putting together a written review that will be on the forum. We had the 660 TC, that's the analog control which goes up to 425, and we have the 690 SD, which is obviously digital, and this one goes up to 450. What I've been doing with these over the past months is to use the 660 TC as my main soldering station, and it's had quite a lot of use. I don't know whether we're going to be able to get this to focus on that tip. That's the size that I have found to be most suitable. Somebody mentioned on YouTube that why had they changed from this split tip with the little spring around it, and I've asked the question, and really this shouldn't make any difference. I have found a small tendency for the tip to actually loosen and slide up a little bit when you need to occasionally just push it down back in. But the tips are the only things that are not made in the UK. But I found them to be pretty good. No real issues. There is just the slightest little bit of pitting beginning to develop. But I mean, barely anything. You wouldn't really have a complaint after using these for 4 or 5 months. And the 690 SD, I have fitted, this will focus, a chisel tip, and I have been using that at 350 or 400 for desoldering, larger things like tuners and stuff like that. Again, if you look closely, tiny little bit of pitting beginning to develop, but again, for the amount of use and temperatures this has been running at, it's not a concern. The tips are pretty inexpensive, and as are most of the spares actually for these. The replacement elements are pretty reasonably priced. I think they're sort of £10–12 or less. I think I covered replacing the elements by unscrewing these and pulling this all out in the previous quick look videos. So they've performed perfectly. I did own one of these for many years, going back quite a few years. Originally bought from SEME. I can't remember the price, but I think that's probably 10 years or more ago. I eventually changed it because I had a chance to get an Ursa Icon, which is now on a different bench and doesn't really get used as I'm putting these through their paces. The only difference really between the two is the Ursa obviously is a far more powerful system and warms up quicker and can deliver more heat into certain jobs, like tuner removal. It will obviously supply more heat than this can. Then of course we've got the cost to consider, and the Icon is probably 2–2.5 times the price, so you would expect it to perform better than these. But for everyday use, these are perfectly adequate. I've got no issues with them at all. The only thing I'm not mad keen on is these stands, really. Let me just move these back a bit and I'll show you what I mean. You can get obviously the basic stand with just the spring, and the iron goes through into the spring. I tend to use these pushed quite a long way back, and as you saw there, the tension on the lead tends to pull the iron out fractionally, and then it's free to just flip up. And I've had a couple of close calls where it's flipped up like that, and I've gone to sort of grab it and it's flipped up and nearly gone into the palm of my hand. I really don't like this cutout arrangement. Again, I asked about this, and the reason it's like that is because Antex also make a fume extraction system, and I believe it actually fastens onto here. So without these slots you wouldn't be able to fit their extraction system. I've not looked at one of those, I haven't seen it, I don't know exactly how it fits or the prices or how good it is, but certainly that's the reason for these slots. You know, I had considered putting something around here just to stop this iron pulling out, because I do find that annoying. And in fact I may even, I think I've got one of the old Antex bases with the spring system somewhere, and I may, you know, just change back to using that, because as soon as you've got a bit of pressure on there it just loosens and pings up. If you're lucky it just catches on the tip, but otherwise it's there ready to go flying off somewhere. So yeah, not massively keen on those. I don't know another way of doing it any better really. Yeah, something I'm not hugely comfortable with, just because it can do that. I'll probably have to modify it, and in fact perhaps Antex should make some sort of blanking plate as an option that just clips into place there, made of this same heat resistant material, whatever it is, just to alleviate that problem. In fact, it wouldn't even need to be the full length. They could probably, you know, just come up halfway. So if this ever does come loose, it cannot go anywhere. So yeah, that's an interesting idea. If the fume extraction system already attaches here, as I believe it does, then perhaps a blanking plate to solve that problem would be the solution. I'll mention that to them and see what they think. The 690 SD obviously has the ability for the surface mount bits to be plugged in, and there are various temperature offsets. You can select the bits. Each surface mount bit has a code, and you can select whichever code is applicable, and that offsets the temperatures accordingly. Again, I did have those many years ago. I think we used the PLCC tip quite a lot, but not so much the others, because when I had them, and as I say it was going back a long time, we weren't really doing as much surface mount stuff as we are these days. I would like to have a kit again to try and put through its paces, but we've got a CD full of images from Antex, and I'll put those up in the PDF review that I'm doing at the moment. But as a product update from 4 or 5 months of use, yeah, very impressed. I knew this was a good piece of equipment because I'd had one before. Hadn't used one of these, but absolutely fine. I've got no issues with the analog control. Only goes to 425, but for the majority of purposes that's plenty. I generally have them on 350, unless I'm desoldering, then I'll ramp that up to 4 or 450. Yeah, very reliable, no issues at all. Still to be convinced on the tips without the spring collar and the split in the side, but yeah, no particular problems, and yeah, quite clear so far. Yeah, I'll catch you later.